So it's great to see all of you here this morning. I'm Reverend Bonnie Rose, and here we are at the Ventura Center for Spiritual Living. It's Father's Day. It's a beautiful day. We breathe in deeply, and we exhale, allowing ourselves to become even more present in the eternal now. Let us breathe and trust and know that the I Am is the name of God, and that God incarnated as everything, including each of us. And so together we will sing, I am remembering who I am, so that we might rest in the presence as the presence of the oneness of God in each of us. Shall we take a few moments to count our blessings while the choir finds their way into the sanctuary? We certainly are blessed to be here together this morning, to be in Ventura County, to be in love with love, to be celebrating, and to be together. What a beautiful Sunday it is. And so once again, I wish all of the fathers in the room and everybody who had a father or has a father, happy Father's Day. And I'm going to start by just introducing the book that we're featuring this month. It's called The Top 10 Things Dead People Want to Tell You. It's by Mike Dooley. Great title. I'm not quite sure how he knows what the top 10 things dead people want to tell us is, but I'm gonna trust him. He's got some good stuff in there. 2 weeks ago, I spoke about how the first thing that dead people want you to know is that they are not dead, that life is eternal. The second thing that dead people want us to know is that there is no devil. Does that come as a surprise to anybody? Probably not. Probably if you've been in New Thought churches or if you've attended this type of center in the past, you know that we teach that there is no devil, that heaven and hell are really states of mind and states of being, and that the only devil is the self-imposed devil, that the ways that we limit ourselves or the ways that we condemn ourselves, that we are punished by the inner punisher. There's no devil. That being said, I would love to tell you one of my favorite stories about a devil. I just love this story. This happened probably 20 years ago when I used to sing with an opera company in Orange County, Opera Pacific. And we were doing a production of Faust. And do any of you know the story of Faust? Briefly, the gist of it is that Faust is a metaphysician, and he is at the end of his life, and he's regretting his life, and he's working on his metaphysical stuff, turning lead to gold, and he is regretting that he hasn't lived fully, that he's wasted his life. In the midst of that regret, the devil comes to him and says, "Oh, Faust, do I have a deal for you? I'm going to give you this magic elixir, and if you drink it, you will become young again." And he shows him a vision of the beautiful Marguerite spinning at her wheel. This is the French version, by the way, spinning at her wheel, and she, and he says, "Oh man, I have to have some of that." So he drinks the elixir. He sells his soul to the devil. He becomes young again, and the rest is history. And I'll tell you how it ends shortly. Okay, it causes quite a bit of trouble for him. Let's just put it that way. In this production, the guy playing the devil was really fierce. He was big and he was mean-looking. He had been a Klingon in a former life. He had worked for Star Trek as a Klingon, and he was just a big, burly guy. And he was staged in a particularly mean way. He had the chorus. I was in the chorus. He had us doing things that have never been seen before in Orange County. It was pretty wild, kind of sexy. So this guy was really big and really mean, and he had these devil minions that would follow him around. And these were very petite, very cute young women that were wearing very scanty clothes, and they helped him weave his web of evil on stage. So if you sing in an opera chorus, you spend a lot of time backstage. And I got to know the devil minions pretty well. So we would sit and we'd chat. And they told me a story about the devil, or the actor playing the devil. At the end of Faust, this is a spoiler alert, by the way, if you're going to go home and see it, Faust doesn't really get what he wants. Marguerite goes crazy, and Faust has to go to hell. So at the end of Faust, the devil minions loaded Faust into the devil's cart. The devil sits in the driver's seat, and the minions have to pull this rickety cart up this very steep ramp. I don't know why they're going up to hell, but just trust me on this. They're pulling this rickety cart up this ramp with no side rails, by the way. And the ramp is shaking, and the cart is shaking, and the devil is facing away from the audience. But the minions say that every single night the devil would say, "Girls, girls, girls, if this thing goes over, save yourselves, save yourselves." It's not worth it. We're going to just jump ship if this thing goes over. I love that story because the devil was so fierce, and then he became vulnerable, and he became humanized, and it just seems to me to be such a metaphor for that part in all of us that really doesn't want to jump ship, that wants everything to work, that wants to look good, that wants people to think well of us. I have another friend who was a very successful actor. He's retired now, and he was in a Shakespeare sword fight, and he cut his finger off on stage. Someone cut his finger off on stage. Would a normal person go to the emergency room right away? No. This guy picks up his finger, sticks it in his lint-infested pocket, puts the stump in there with it, continues to bleed, finishes the scene, and then he goes to the emergency room. So this idea of jumping ship for the devil is really kind of the opposite of what we tend to do. We want to look good, and we want to save face, and we want to preserve the illusion of success. And the truth is that we're all players on this stage called life. Shakespeare said, "The world is a stage, all the world's a stage, and the men and women upon it are merely players." So we're all players. We're all caught in this illusion of trying to look like we're successful, even when we're not. Trying to create this idea that we have to keep pressuring ourselves, and we have to keep stressing, and we have to keep moving to this place where we're having more and doing more and being more. It's so prevalent in this society, isn't it? You know, a lot of us learn from just the culture about what it takes to be successful, what it means to be successful. A lot of us learn from our parents, too. There's this quintessential story from my childhood that kind of sums up some of the dynamic in my home. My sister was an athlete, and she was playing in a tennis tournament, and my parents and all of us were sitting around our 60s Mad Men, Don Draper dinner table, and my mom was probably wearing a frilly dress with a crinoline and an apron, and we were all sitting there eating our meal, and my sister was talking about her tennis tournament, and my mother said, "Oh dear, you know, sweetheart, just have fun." And my father said, "Nope, you get out there, you play to win. You play to win." And I'm kind of glad, actually, that I had that balance of ambition and joy in my life, because sometimes you do need to really, you know, put on your big panties. That came out wrong. Put on your big girl pants. Let's put it that way. Put on your big girl pants and get out there, right, Fred? you have to get out there and you know, make things happen. But the play-to-win consciousness also gets us in trouble. It puts us in that place, as I said, of always wanting to have more, always wanting to do more, always wanting to be more. And it often, when we are constantly striving for success, or for what the world calls success, sometimes we neglect what is true success for us. Sometimes we neglect what really matters most. And sometimes we are placed in that position as if we are going up a rickety ramp drawn by devil minions into hell, the hell of thinking that we are not enough. Anyone been to that hell, ever? Okay, I have. I sometimes pitch a tent there. So, in order to get out of hell, it helps to notice how we are in hell. What definitions are we using for success? How are we limiting ourselves? Much of this is unconscious, so I'm going to invite you to take a deep look within, whether we do it here or whether you do it later on, to look at how you may be defining success for yourself. And you may think that you're above it, and you may think that, well, I know the truth, I know the spiritual truth, I know that success is in love and joy and blessings, but chances are there is still some old illusion of what success is, some old consciousness that you absorbed from the culture or your childhood that is producing some type of resistance within you that has to do with your definition of success. Many of us define success in terms of numbers. One of the things I learned at the School of Ministry was that, this is kind of embarrassing, but that ministers tend to lie about how their church is doing. I don't know if I've done that or not. I'm pretty open about my whatever, but they told us that often when you ask a minister, how is your church doing, they'll say, better and better, even if it's not, even if that person is struggling. And they don't want to give the appearance of struggling because they're afraid that people will judge them. And I believe that this is not limited to ministers. How often do we pretend that everything is fine when it's not? When people ask you, how are you? And you just are really having a bad day, but you don't want to burden somebody, or you don't want to show your weakness, and you just say, oh, I'm fine, thank you. Right? Anyone ever do that? Yeah. So, you know, numbers and how well our children are doing, what kind of grades they're getting, what our bank account looks like. Do you ever define your success by how much money you have or you don't have? Even something like what kind of a car you drive. There's still some of that consciousness floating around in this movement that in order to be really successful, and there's nothing wrong with having a great car if you're not attached to it, but if that's your definition of success, of what kind of car you drive, then that's kind of a slippery slope. Speaking of in this movement, does anybody ever feel like they're doing the science of mind incorrectly? Todd does, clearly. Okay. That you're not praying correctly, that you're not successful in your prayers, that your prayers aren't working out the way you think that they should be working out, and most certainly for many of us, that they are certainly not working out in the time frame that we had in mind. Correct? Correct, Amundo. Right. So if those are your definitions of success, of what success looks like, I invite you to look at that with compassion and consider that maybe those definitions of success are part of the pathway, the road, the cart that takes you to an inner state of hell. You will know that you are in hell if you feel stressed and inadequate. Stressed and inadequate. Two powerful words. For me, my personal version of feeling in hell is when I feel inadequate in this position. I don't know how I got here. I really don't. God picked me up out of a nice, comfortable corporate job and plopped me down on the stage, and here I am speaking the truth every Sunday, my best version of the truth. And I mentioned before about how church is, how life is. Sometimes things change too quickly, or sometimes things don't change quickly enough. We're going through several dramatic transitions right now. Our beautiful Todd is leaving. Let's all go, aww. Greg and Jennifer are moving to Pasadena. Let's all go, aww. Did I leave anybody out? Okay. There are other people in the center that are really struggling, and a lot of us are holding a lot of pain and a lot of angst for people. And there are times when I get caught up in feeling like everything that I do, that we do, is futile. I hate to confess that, but I do sometimes. There are times when I'm so focused on what the result needs to look like that I just get the sense of being stressed and inadequate, and I feel the futility of what we do. Now, you don't have to be a minister to feel that, right? There are others among us that feel futile sometimes, that feel like, what am I doing? Am I doing anything right? Am I enough? So what I've found to be helpful for me is to really, really look at the pressures that I'm putting on myself in terms of being successful, and then to totally turn that around, to have a new measure of success. And the new measure of success has something to do, I almost said the new measure of sex, here we go. The new measure of success has to do with something else. I'm going to read you this quote from Pavi Mehta, who is Nipun Mehta's sister-in-law, who does a lot of work with kindness and generosity in the world. She wrote, "In a world where everything has a price, what happens to the priceless?" She states that our purpose, or she goes on to say, our purpose lives in the realm of the priceless. And that world is changed when we consciously and methodically bring the priceless back into circulation. So that's perhaps our new definition of success. Am I bringing the priceless back into circulation? What does that look like? Well, perhaps it looks like staying present to what is happening and bringing the highest possible consciousness you can bring to it. It is not the consciousness of stress. It is not the consciousness of futility. It is not the consciousness of am I enough or inadequacy. It is another form of consciousness. It is circulating the priceless. All of the measures of success that we tend to cling to, a lot of times we tend to cling to them because they are actually measurable. The priceless commodities that we have eternal and infinite access to are not measurable. That's what makes them so hard to find sometimes. So what are some ways that we can deal with the present moment, that we can apply the priceless to the present moment? Perhaps we could focus on kindness. Am I being infinitely kind as I possibly can in this moment, to myself and to others? Perhaps we could focus on trust. Am I torturing myself with an endless list of what bad things could happen or how my life is over as I know it? Or am I trusting that a higher power, God, Spirit, love, has this all well in hand? Perhaps we could bring the consciousness of moving slowly. Have you noticed that when we move slowly, we actually accomplish more? I've noticed that for myself. When I move slowly and mindfully, I actually accomplish more. Perhaps we could simply bring the consciousness of breathing deeply into the moment and being fully present and fully mindful with what is. Perhaps we could simply choose to love. To love as best as we possibly can, and to make sure that we don't leave ourselves out of that loop of love. I've been working on it. Working on it with some of the challenges that I face as a minister, and I find that anything can fit into these measures of success. This past week I had to do something that was just so mind-numbingly boring. I had to read these California laws about employment. Me. Very boring. Perhaps some of you like that. If so, please see me after church. And I do things like research the new cash register that we're going to get in the bookstore. And that's lovely. It's really a lovely thing, but it's not really my forte. Let's put it that way. But even stuff like that, if I can reframe that, if I can look at how I feel like I'm not really going to get these California laws, or I'm not going to pick the wrong cash register, so I'll probably do it wrong. Look how I'm measuring my success about doing it right or doing it wrong. And if I can reframe that and understand that my knowledge of the California employment laws are helpful to the people who work in this center, that I'm actually being kind by researching those laws. That when we pick out the perfect cash register for our beautiful bookstore volunteers, that we are actually being kind and supportive and loving to the bookstore volunteers and the people who purchase books in our store. And that somehow changes it up for me. Even emails. How many of you get about 100 emails a day? Probably a lot of you, right? Even spam about all kinds of, body parts that I don't even have, and all kinds of things that, whatever, I won't go in that, but oh, goodness. Even if you can just click on those emails, just click delete and click with love, that makes a difference. And the emails where people really want something from you, where someone really needs something from you, that can get overwhelming too, right? Particularly in the working world, or particularly with our families. What if every single email we got was an opportunity to be kind and an opportunity to love? What would that be like? Do you think that would change your consciousness if you remembered? That's why we're here, though. That's why we're here, is to lift each other up. That's why we sing, I am remembering. It's not only remembering about the I am presence that is God, who is all of us. It is remembering that the I am presence is fully present and practicing here in the world as each and every one of us. We achieve that balance between contemplation and action, and we become that contemplative presence in the world in something as simple as answering an email that once would have irked you. Now we get to answer that email with the highest level of love that we can summon. How about that? That'll change your life. Not only email, but whatever it is you do on a repetitive basis, bringing love to it will change your life. And not only will it change your life, it will change the world. I'm sure that many of us had heavy hearts this week when we learned of the shooting in South Carolina and how tragic that was and just so sad. And I think about the people that were shot, and I also think about the person who did the shooting. What was going on in that young man's life that he was so far from the truth of love? There's a story about a friend of mine that actually did something similar to that. And I wonder if somebody had been particularly kind to him or loving to him, even just for an instant, at the right time, perhaps that could have changed all of that. And the thing is that even at the right time, in God's world, everything is the right time. It's always time to be kind. It's always time to be loving. It's always kind to recognize that we are more than enough. It's always time to redefine our measures of success and stay out of hell and call forth heaven on earth. A little while ago, I mentioned that I was raised in this home where joy and ambition were both emphasized. And I wondered, how have I been able to reconcile that for myself, love and ambition or joy and ambition? And in terms of what I'm talking about today, perhaps we can have both joy and ambition. We can take all of our ambition, all of our purpose, all of our passion, and focus it on the tiny, present, infinite moment that stands before us, and focus that ambition to be as loving and as kind as we possibly can. As I said, that'll change your life. It's so simple, and it will also change the world around us. Let us know that now, and let us pray. And so turning within, I rest in this presence, as this presence, knowing that the power and the presence of life is my life right here and right now. That some of us call this presence love, that some of us call it God, some call it spirit or higher power, Jesus, Buddha. Whatever it is, we call this divine presence. It is the life of everything, and it is our life right here, right now. And so I unify with that presence. I connect to it, I trust it, and I know it as my own. And as I know it for me, I know it for every single person sitting in this sacred circle that is not a circle, this sacred circle of life that we create together, that we co-create in this sanctuary every single Sunday. Today, in the spirit of togetherness, we lift each other up. We lift each other up into the infinite, omnipresent now. And we trust and we apply our passion to vow to become kind and loving and ever more present with what is in the highest possible way. Together, we know that the work that we have done here this morning changes lives, not only our own lives, but the person sitting to the right or to the left of us and back of us or in front of us. And we know that even when people are far away from us, whether physically here on earth or moving to exotic places around the world, that they are close to us as well, that they are loved and that we are loved in return, and that life is a blessing, and that there are so many blessings that we don't even notice them sometimes. But today, we choose to do it differently. We choose to love. I give thanks for this beautiful teaching. I give thanks for fathers everywhere. I speak a special word of prayer to those who are struggling in all ways, but especially in the shooting that took place in South Carolina. I trust that God is there too. And I trust that God lifts each of us up in our own way. I give thanks for this message. I give thanks for this work. I give thanks for this spiritual center. I give thanks for everyone here today and everyone who is not here today. I give thanks for all paths to God, and I bless all of them: churches, synagogues, temples, mosques, ashrams. I bless atheists and fundamentalists. And with a heart that is so filled with blessedness, I say, thank you, Spirit, thank you, God, and I release these words into the divine mystery, and together we say, and so it is.
Well, this was good timing. I really didn't know what we were going to play today, and kind of had a back and forth with Bonnie and wasn't sure what we were going to do. So this song is a measure of success on joy and love, especially when you don't feel like it. So y'all can help me out. Also, we're going to have John joining us today, which is pretty awesome. Chris on the drums and Mikey on the bass here. I'm Ian. Sometimes in our lives, we get to feeling so down. Now let me hear you out there if you know what I'm talking about. I said sometimes. Yes, sometimes. Yes, sometimes we get to feeling so down. But when you look inside, that's where the answer's to be found. You got the faith to know. 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 You got the faith to know that every little thing gonna be all right. You got the love to know. 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 You got that love to know that every little thing gonna be all right. You got the joy to know. You got the joy to know. You got that joy to know. You got that joy to know. You got that joy to know that every little thing will be all right. Give me some joy. One more. You got that faith and that love and that joy. You got that faith and that love and that joy. You got the faith and the love and the joy. You got that faith and that love and that joy. You got the faith to know that everything will be all right. You got the faith to know. You got the love to know. You got the joy to know. You got the faith to know. You got the love to know. You got the joy to know. You got the faith to know that every little thing don't you know? I said, and I'm going to say it again, and I'm going to do it one more time. I said, every little thing, baby. Yes, every little thing is gonna be all right. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Aren't we so blessed? So before we do our affirmations and sing, I just want to let you know something. We have the sacrament of cake in Stanley's Hall. It's a farewell cake for Todd. And we're also going to, after Namaste, instead of all spreading apart, we're going to do one more brief closing ritual to send Todd on his merry way. So why don't you come on the stage with me for this, Todd? You gonna cry? Not yet. Okay. Okay.
Too freaked out.
Okay, yeah. All right, so let's all stand up. We'll do our affirmations, we'll sing, and then we'll celebrate Todd. All right, so please repeat after me. I am held in Spirit's holiness.
I am held in Spirit's holiness.
Divinely guided by wisdom, courage, and love.
Divinely guided by wisdom, courage, and love.
I am always connected.
I am always connected.
I see God in everything.
I see God in everything.
I create joy on earth. As I share my blessings. Thank you for my life. And so it is. So briefly, I'll just make a short announcement. Maybe I could have the peacock feathers somewhere else. That'd be great. Todd. Todd, oh crap, that's my announcement. Thank you. Thank you so much for being who you are, for being such a light in the center, for sharing your family with us, for being so wonderful. This is a gift from the church, and it only begins to touch the amount of love that we feel for you as you go. We wish you so much love in your new adventure, and we just know that we hold you in our heart, as I hope you know as well. And so to signify that, we're going to sing, You Are the Face of God, but we're going to sing, You Are the Face of Todd. And we're going to sing it twice, and then we are free to eat cake. Here we go. You are the face